To get sick, nothing would happen. I would just be at home alone sick. Nobody comes over here anyway. We don't see each other.
The courtroom fell into a heavy, loaded silence as the sharp crack of the judge's gavel sliced through the thick air. "Order in the court," he declared, but even his commanding voice couldn't quiet the electric tension pulsing through the room. This wasn't just another legal proceeding. This was the final battlefield in a war that had been quietly brewing behind the scenes of reality TV. Fans of Sister Wives thought they had seen it all. Breakups, betrayals, and tears streamed across their screens, but nothing, not even their wildest guesses, could have prepared them for the truth that unraveled in that courtroom. And at the eye of this storm stood none other than Meri Brown, once Kody's first wife, now his most formidable challenger. She wasn't there as a reality star or a scorned ex. She was there as a woman who had been wronged, silenced, erased. And she came to fight. Meri entered the room with a quiet thunder. Gone was the soft-spoken, often dismissed woman viewers had grown used to. In her place stood someone composed, sharp, and dangerous in her calm. Dressed in a crisp navy suit, hair slicked back with purpose and gripping a folder like it was her sword, Meri radiated purpose. No reality TV drama could capture the weight of what she carried into that courtroom. Across from her sat Kody, looking far from the charismatic, loud patriarch he had once projected himself to be. Next to him was Robyn, tightly gripping his hand so forcefully her knuckles had turned white. Her eyes darted nervously around the courtroom, as though trying to gauge who had come to witness their fall. For so long, they had held power through manipulation and performance. But that day, their foundation began to crack beneath them. This wasn't just a divorce hearing, it was a reckoning. While the world was distracted by Christine and Janelle's exits, Meri had been working in silence. Behind the scenes, she was meeting with attorneys, compiling documents, building a case that would tear down everything Kody had built on deceit. The heart of her lawsuit, financial betrayal. Meri accused Kody and Robyn of siphoning off shared family funds to build a cushy life for themselves while the rest of the wives were left behind, emotionally and financially abandoned. Property investments, business ventures, reality show earnings. Meri laid bare a shocking trail of mismanagement and intentional exclusion. She alleged that for years, Kody used his legal status and position as head of the family to funnel assets into Robyn's hands, leaving Meri with nothing but questions and cold shoulders. But Meri didn't come to court with just her pain. She came with proof. Inside the folder she held was a trove of damning evidence, collected patiently over the years. When her lawyer handed the judge that thick binder, the room changed. You could feel the air shift, bank records, emails, text messages, property deeds. Everything was laid out, cleanly labeled, color-coded, and brutally clear. Money had been quietly moved from family accounts into Robyn's name. Emails revealed Kody dodging Meri's questions, mocking her concerns. Texts showed him refusing to involve her in shared responsibilities. It was all there, the kind of betrayal you can't spin with charm or confessionals. As each document was read aloud, Kody's confidence visibly drained. He shifted in his seat, his smirk gone, hands fidgeting. Robyn whispered frantically into his ear, her face pale, her composure shattered. The courtroom buzzed with disbelief. Gasps and whispers echoed from every corner as the details of Meri's evidence came to light. Friends, family allies, even former supporters who had stood by Kody now looked on in stunned silence. The image of a united spiritual family had already worn thin over the years. But this was a total collapse. The judge, flipping through page after page, finally looked up and addressed Kody. "Mr. Brown," he asked with cold authority, "why were these transactions made without the consent or input of the other parties involved in the family estate?" Kody opened his mouth, but no words came out. He glanced at Robyn, who looked down at the table. I was trying to do what's best for the family," he stammered weakly. But the judge wasn't buying it. His next words sliced through the courtroom like a blade. "Which part of the family?" And then came the moment everyone would remember. When Meri stood up to speak, she didn't need to shout. She didn't cry. Her voice was steady, full of quiet strength. She didn't need to attack. She let the truth speak for itself. "I gave decades of my life to this family," she began. "I helped build our businesses. I helped raise children. I sacrificed. I stayed silent because I believed in what we were creating." Then she paused, and her voice, though slightly trembling, landed like a hammer. "But at some point, I stopped being part of the we. I wasn't just cut out, I was erased." The room fell silent. Not a breath. Even Kody couldn't mask his shock. Everyone felt it, the final, undeniable truth. And outside the courthouse, chaos. Media vans lined the streets, fans and critics swarmed the entrance, some carried signs, some simply wanted the drama. But all knew this wasn't just another family squabble. This was a full-blown public implosion of everything the Brown family once stood for. Even though Sister Wives producers weren't allowed in the courtroom, reports suggested TLC was already scrambling to secure interviews, specials, anything to capture the fallout. Because this wasn't just a plot twist. This was a reality TV explosion unfolding in real time. Meri had done her homework. She'd waited, watched, and moved with precision. And now she stood on the other side of the courtroom, composed as ever, while Kody and Robyn clung to each other with a desperation that felt more like panic than love. What once looked like a partnership now resembled a lifeline slipping away. When the judge finally adjourned the session, his expression said it all. This wasn't some petty family drama. It was the result of years of silence, sacrifice, and betrayal, now erupting into the light. And the verdict? That was still to come. But everyone in the room could already feel it. It would change everything. Gasps echoed louder than ever when Meri's lawyer placed that organized binder on the desk. The judge leaned in, and that's when the trial turned. What was once a predictable legal dispute transformed into something massive, a reckoning, a dismantling of illusion. Meri didn't need to gloat. She didn't even smile. She sat still, calm, unbothered. Because she knew, truth didn't need theatrics. That binder wasn't just a stack of paper. It was her weapon, her vindication. A silent scream finally heard, and it was years in the making. Inside sources later confirmed that Meri had meticulously gathered everything over time. Digital records, contracts, communication logs, TLC pay stubs, property transfers, every little piece. All of it quietly compiled by a woman the world had underestimated. This wasn't emotion. It was evidence. Cold, hard, unforgettable. Among the first damning items, a financial breakdown of the family's earnings, TV appearances, books, endorsements, every cent accounted for. And the reality was stark. Nearly 70% of those profits had been funneled into accounts and properties under Kody and Robyn's names, leaving Meri and the other wives with scraps. The attorney pointed to one shocking moment: a $400,000 network payment allegedly rerouted to buy Robyn a luxury home, with no trace of notification to Meri. The judge turned sharply. "Did Meri receive notice of this transfer?" "No, Your Honor," her attorney replied without flinching. And in that moment, the silence spoke volumes.
"Meri, I'm not going to be Robyn. I don't want to be Robyn. I'm going to be my own individual."
She only discovered the betrayal by chance, through public property records. The moment the judge presented them, Kody's face flushed a deep red. This wasn't just oversight. It was intentional erasure. Meri had been quietly removed, emotionally, ghosted and digitally blocked, emails ignored, texts unanswered, voicemails unheard. But it didn't stop there. In court, email exchanges were revealed, heartbreaking evidence where Meri was seen desperately trying to stay involved in family decisions, finances, and property matters. Kody's replies? Cold, and in many cases, non-existent. The courtroom leaned in as screenshots of text messages were displayed. In one, Meri gently asked if she could use a portion of the family account to reinvest in her small business. Kody's two-word reply? Ask Robyn. The atmosphere shifted. The unspoken truth was out. Robyn wasn't just a wife. She was the gatekeeper. And Kody had handed her the keys to the kingdom. Next came the voicemails. Meri's voice, cracked and trembling, asked why her name had been removed from the joint deed. No reply. None. Meri's attorney stood, unwavering, and laid it all bare. This wasn't just abandonment. This was calculated exclusion, disguised as spiritual leadership. The family wasn't legally equal. Only Robyn had the ring and the paperwork. The others? They had only trust, and that trust had been weaponized. Then came the breaking point: Robyn. As Meri's case unraveled years of silence, Robyn began to break down. Her sobs echoed through the courtroom. Eyeliner streaked her face as she whispered to Kody, "You told me everything was taken care of." And just like that, the illusion shattered. Robyn was no longer the innocent bystander. She was either complicit or completely deceived. Kody's moment to respond arrived, but the charismatic father figure the public once knew was gone. On the stand stood a cornered man, his confidence fractured. "I never meant to hurt anyone," he whispered. "I led with love." But when the judge asked why Meri's name was removed from property deeds, Kody stuttered, offering legal excuses that quickly fell apart when time-stamped emails showed he personally orchestrated it all. The courtroom, once fed by TLC's polished version of the Brown family, was now digesting the raw, uncut truth. Meri wasn't just forgotten. She was erased. Outside the court, the story exploded. Meri wins, and Kody exposed, and Robyn breaks down began trending. But back inside, the storm hadn't passed. Robyn, once silent, now looked shattered as Kody revealed that he had secretly moved family funds to help Robyn buy her Flagstaff home. Meri's name wasn't even consulted. In one of the trial's most damning moments, the judge asked, "Would you say your family model was equal in treatment, finances, and decision-making?" Kody hesitated. The silence was brutal. Then quietly, he muttered, "Not always." That was it. The confession. The veil lifted. Robyn's face, once drenched in tears, now looked frozen. She didn't cry again. She just sat there, processing the reality that maybe, just maybe, she too had been a pawn. The judge called for a recess, visibly disturbed. Meanwhile, Meri sat still. No smirks, no revenge glow, just strength. Calm, firm, truth-telling strength. This wasn't just a personal victory. It was a cultural reckoning. The family America had been sold was crumbling in front of the world. The man once idolized on TV was now unmasked, not a spiritual leader, but a manipulator of trust and affection. Meri had been silenced for years, and now finally she was being heard. When the judge returned, the room fell silent. Every breath caught. Every eye watched. He sifted through the documents, removed his glasses, and finally fixed his gaze on Meri. His verdict? This court rules in favor of Meri Brown. Gasps swept the courtroom. Robyn cupped her mouth in shock. Kody turned pale. The mask had officially slipped. And Meri? She gathered her papers, stood tall, and walked out with the grace of a woman who had been vindicated. She didn't need to say a word. Her truth had done all the talking. The courtroom fell into stunned silence as the judge's words landed like a hammer on Kody Brown's world. "You are hereby ordered," he declared, "to repay all financial debts owed to Meri Brown, including spousal support, an equal division of property as initially promised, and the $47,000 you spent without her consent." But the ruling didn't stop at money. The judge went further, stating with sharp clarity that Kody had engaged in emotional abandonment, financial intimidation, and violated both verbal and legal agreements throughout their union. Robyn gasped, her voice caught in her throat. No, this can't be happening," she whispered, shaking in disbelief. Meanwhile, Meri didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply breathed. For the first time in years, her fingers unclenched from the bench in front of her. The storm she had weathered for over a decade had finally passed. As the judge continued explaining the enforcement of the judgment, Robyn lost control. "You don't get it!" she cried, standing abruptly, tears of anger and pain flooding her face. "He did everything for this family." The bailiff gently stepped forward, motioning her back into her seat. The judge, calm and commanding, didn't miss a beat. "Mrs. Robyn Brown, this is a courtroom. If you cannot conduct yourself with Respect. You are free to leave. The message was clear. This was no longer Kody's court to control. Outside, the paparazzi had already caught Robyn's breakdown, and the headlines wrote themselves, "Robyn Brown breaks down in court. Kody humiliated in shocking verdict." Kody sat in silence, arms folded tightly, staring daggers across the courtroom. This wasn't just a legal loss. This was a collapse of power. The courtroom had just exposed the very thing he'd carefully hidden from the world. His control wasn't love. It was manipulation. The judge signed the order. The ruling was immediately enforceable, assets to be divided in 60 days, and if Kody tried to stall, further penalties would follow. The gavel slammed down. Boom! And it was official. Some courtroom witnesses claim they heard Kody growl under his breath. She planned this. But Meri hadn't schemed. She had simply done what Kody never expected, stood up for herself. When Meri exited the courtroom, the crowd erupted. Fans, reporters, former Sister Wives viewers, they all wanted a glimpse of the woman who had finally taken her power back. She didn't wave, she didn't pose. She simply walked tall, flanked by her lawyer and best friend Jen, glowing with quiet victory. A reporter shouted, "Meri, what would you say to women scared to leave toxic relationships?" Meri paused, then looked directly into the camera. "Don't be afraid to choose yourself. It's not selfish, it's survival." Those words spread like wildfire. On TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, millions watched, thousands shared, and women everywhere whispered, "This gave me strength." Meanwhile, back in the courtroom, Robyn sat crumpled and speechless. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks. She reached out to Kody for comfort, but he was already gone. Cold, distant. He shook his lawyer's hand and walked out, not even looking back at the woman he once claimed was his soulmate. For the first time, Robyn understood what Meri had tried to say all these years. Kody didn't love, he controlled. And when that control slipped, so did his loyalty. The judge's final ruling echoed like a warning across reality TV. "Mr. Kody Brown, you are to pay $750,000 to Meri Brown in emotional damages, plus all rights to shared businesses and properties." The courtroom gasped. Then came the line that made headlines. This court recognizes emotional abandonment, manipulation, and public humiliation within this plural marriage as emotional abuse. It wasn't just a ruling, it was a historic precedent for women, in spiritual or non-legal marriages everywhere. Kody's face twisted in disbelief. "I took care of them," he muttered. The judge didn't flinch. "And your best was not enough. Favoritism, isolation, and neglect? That's abuse." Robyn stood again. "You don't understand, we all sacrificed." But the judge shut it down. Devotion doesn't justify abuse. Cameras outside captured Kody and Robyn slipping away through a side door, not victorious but exposed. Within minutes, hashtags trended worldwide. Meri wins, Ach, Kody verdict. Justice, for Meri YouTubers reacted. TikTokers analyzed. Twitter roasted. Kody with lines like, "Karma wore heels and her name was Meri." Robyn whining like she's the victim? Girl, sit down. Weeks later, Meri launched a new podcast, Unbroken, My Voice, My Victory. It wasn't about survival anymore. It was about thriving. TLC producers now faced a dilemma. Follow the man fans had turned against, or pivot to the woman leading. A movement? One thing was clear. Meri was no longer just a figure in Kody's story. She was writing her own.